Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. InfoSec Pandey here, and day 38 is here. And today we are getting into something that makes your detection not just work but make sense. So if you have ever looked at a SIEM rule and thought, okay, it is work, but why does it matter? Then buckle up because we are diving into MITRE attack mapping. So one of the most valuable things you can do as a SOC analyst to connect your detections to the real world attacker behavior. No fluff, just practical and technical guidance. So first off, what is MITRE attack? MITRE attack. So let's clear the fog. The MITRE attack is a framework. So it is a framework and it is a globally accessible knowledge base. So the MITRE attack is a framework and a globally accessible knowledge base of adversary TTPs, tactic and procedures based on real world observations. So think of it like the strategy guide for how attackers behave across various stage of an intrusion. So from initial access to impact. So what the mean of attack? So the attack stands for adversarial tactic, technique, and common knowledge. Yeah, so it's a bit of a mouthful, but here is the breakdown. So what the mean of tactic? So tactic means uh, what? So the tactics are what the attacker is trying to achieve. So what they are trying to achieve, whether they are trying to achieve the initial access, or they want to do the lateral movement, or they wanted to do the execution. So the tactic tells what the attacker wanted to do. Then we have technique. So technique tells how they are trying to do it. So how they are going to do the phishing or command line execution, command line execution, or pass the hash. So the technique tells how. Then we have sub techniques. So sub techniques is part of technique. So sub technique provide the further detail, like how they are going to deep dive into the techniques, like under command scripting, under command and scripting interpreter, and PowerShell. So this is more in-depth knowledge. So for example, if an attacker uses a PowerShell to run a payload, and that maps to technique number 1059 and then 001, PowerShell, PowerShell. So here this is the technique ID, technique ID, technique ID, and this is the subtechnique ID, subtechnique ID. So a single technique can have multiple subtechniques: 001, 002, 003, or 4, etc. Why should you map detection rule to MITRE attack? So map to MITRE. So let's be honest, SIEM rules can get messy, and a SOC full of hundred of alert and no structure is nightmare. So mapping to attack brings clarity. So you will also get the context. So you know what the alert is detecting and why it is matter in the attack chain. So you are going to get the what. and why. So you will get the full context. Then also you will get the coverage, so you can visualize which part of your environment are monitored. So this is more importantly which are not. So you can get the full visualization or visibility of your monitoring. And then you can fill the gap. So by mapping the rule to the coverage, you can understand what data source have clear rules and what are not. Then also compliance and reporting part. So compliance and reporting, like your boss want to know if you have covered against, so say like credential dumping, so MITRE mapping give you a yes or no answer. So this is how you can make the decision whether you have covered or not covered. So this fulfill the compliance requirement as well. And then for the purple teaming, so red teamers simulate the technique and you detect them. With attack, everyone speak the same language, so this is important for purple teaming, for red team activity and blue team activity. All right, so now we have very important question: how do you map a detection rule? So let's break it down into some step by step process. So the step number one, we have understand what your rule does. So first you understand. So let's say you have a KQL query like this: device process event, and then you have some filtering where the file name in powershell.exe and pwsh.exe. So your file name in PowerShell exe or pwsh exe. Then you have another filter here where the process command line, where process command line has enc. So this is the rule that you have. So what it is doing, so it is going to detect the powershell execution with encoded command. So this is encoded command, so it's a very common obfuscation technique attackers use. So this is what it is going to detect. So now we have clear understanding of the rule, what it is going to do. And the second phase, we have look up the MITRE technique. So look up MITRE. So you can head over to the official MITRE website, attack.mitre.org, and search for the PowerShell. So go here and search for the PowerShell. Boom! Now you will find the technique ID. So this is the technique ID T1059, and then sub technique ID T1059, and then we have some platform windows, contributor name, and then version, created, modified date, and the technique. Uh, the tactic is executions. So this is what we can get by mapping our rule. So let's jump on the third step: add the mapping to your detection rule. So add the mapping to the rule. So here is how you might annotate your detection rule with MITRE. So you can write like this: rule name. So rule name is like PowerShell encoded command execution. Then we have description here, base 64 encoded command. and then tactic execution. Technique is T1059001, and this is PowerShell. And then you can also map the data source. So data source is like process monitoring, command line interpreter. All right, now we have step number 4. So add the metadata for context. So add metadata. So this is step number 4. So if your SIEM support, add some tag like MITRE ID, MITRE ATT&CK ID like T1059.0.0.1, and then also you can add the severity of the rule, and then detection category, and also you can add the MITRE tactic. So MITRE tactic is execution here, and then you can also add the platform details. So platform is Windows, and data source also is very important. So can add the data source. So data source is like EDR log and sysmon events, etc. Sysmon events, etc. So this makes it easy to report and group detections later. Now let's talk about some real world example. So like lateral movement, lateral movement detection. So let's say you have a rule that detect PsExec uses. So let's write a simple SPL rule: index equal to Windows, and source type equal to window event, win event log, and then security and event code equal to 4688, and search for new process name, new process name equal to a wildcard, then psexec.exe, psexec.exe. So how we can map this rule? So we can do the MITRE mapping. We can add the tactic is lateral movement, and then we can add the technique. So technique we can add T1021.2, which is for the SMB and window admin share. Again, the mapping is not just about being fancy, so it is connect your detection to a real attack behavior. Then there are some tools that help with MITRE mapping. So what tools we can use? So number one, Sigma rule. So Sigma is like the YML of detection logic. So it's a YAML format where you can write your rule. So it's a vendor neutral rule. You can convert to Splunk, Sentinel, Elastic, etc. So YML support to Sentinel, Splunk, or any other SIM. So you can write your rule one time and you can convert it multiple time for various rules. So Sigma rule usually include MITRE mapping right in the YML. So you can use the tool like Sigma AC to convert them to your SIEM flavor. So this is the tool that help you to convert the Sigma rule into some other SIEM tool. Then number two, we have attack navigator. So you can use the MITRE attack navigator to visualize which technique your current detection cover. So it looks like this. Suppose you have one rule here and three rule here. So it is a kind of JSON format and you can easily map your rule. Attack navigator. So you can create multiple layers here, like detection coverage, red team simulation coverage, or uncovered gaps. So easily you can find your gaps. So this is very good tool and modern tool. Then also we have another tool, the third tool. So it's a detect. It's a detect, and it is by Blue Map. So it is also a YML based detection coverage mapping tool that integrates nicely with your attack navigator. So you can find it on GitHub. You can just search this tool on internet and you can get it from GitHub. And there are some reporting use case coverage with MITRE. So reporting. So let's say your SOC lead want to know which part of the MITRE matrix are be monitoring, and with a proper mapping you can generate report like rule name, MITRE technique ID, like PowerShell encoded command, and then the complete detail like technique ID, sub-technique ID, and then category, then detection rule, etc. So you can create a complete report for it. Then you can export this to Navigator or Excel file for tracking over time. All right, so there are some common mistakes that we need to avoid. Number one, mapping to the wrong technique. So don't just guess, read the attack descriptions, and not everything evolving PowerShell is execution. Sometimes it is defensive vision. So this is the common mistake, like mapping to wrong technique. Then number two, we have not updating mappings. So threat evolve, and keep your detection logic and mapping current by updating it. Number three, using T100 for everything. So T1003 is credential dumping. So this is not every alert evolving like lsas.exe is that. So you can check your context and map your rule accordingly. Key findings or key takeaways of this video. So number one, the MITRE attack help you bring structure and meaningful coverage to your detections. So this provide you the structure and meaning. Number two, you can map each detection rule to a TTP, the technique, tactic, and procedure, and the sub techniques if relevant. So, and then number three, use tool like Attack Navigator, Sigma, and DeTTECT to visualize your coverage. Then number four, document mapping with your detection rule for easy reporting and tracking. So document everything. Now it's your turn, and I'm giving you a hands-on challenge. So you can pull one of your SIEM rule and answer these. So what tactic it is aligned to? So find the tactic, and also what technique does it map to? Find the technique, and what is the MITRE ID? So MITRE ID, and then is it mapped correctly? Is mapped correctly or not? And then is it documented in your rule metadata? So you are 38 days deep into a SOC learning journey now, and by learning to speak MITRE, you are putting yourself ahead of the pack. So see you on day 39, where we will probably look up something even more spicy. So comment your finding in the comment section and like the video, hit the subscribe. Thank you.